Why is it taking so long? That's weird. There was a delay. Okay, but don't worry, I'll cut all that intro stuff out. Okay. Welcome to the Frugalpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Sarah St. John, and my guest today is a business consultant who helps coaches and online entrepreneurs unblock and increase their money flow using her proven NFA moneymaker methods. After going from food stamps to building a six-figure business fast, she's on a quest to teach entrepreneurs how to make more money doing exactly what they love to do. Welcome to the show, Dr. Amanda Barrientez. Oh, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. But don't worry, I'll cut all this out. I'll edit it nicely. So. I can't hear you now. Mm-mm. Let's see. Let me pull up the chat. Yeah, you can do that and see if that fixes it.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Weird. Okay. So yeah, I won't unplug my Yeti, even though it's not so using it. I'll leave it plugged in. Okay.
Oh, cool. No worries. I'll edit all this out. Since I already did the intro, I won't do that again. So we'll just start off from like after I had introduced you.
Perfect.
Okay, I'll just welcome to the show, Dr. Amanda Barrientez.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, Sarah.
Well, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it. I'm really curious about this story about from food stamps to six figures. Can you go into that and maybe just a little background in general on how you got into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I think a lot of times entrepreneurs' stories start way back when, you go like, oh, all of the winding roads that led me here are about downfall and overcoming downfall and, then solutions you get to provide for the people that you work with. So mine started with really one night on the floor crying. And it had to do with, I had left my 15-year marriage having an affair. And then my next relationship was falling apart. I really didn't have a lot of relationship skills. And I was about to move out of this house, and I lived in a really expensive area, and I have 3 kids. And I was looking in the, like at the time it was Craigslist, and I was looking at ads, and I was like, oh crap, I don't have enough money to live anywhere. My ex-husband lost his job. I had no child support, and I was in grad school, and the income was very, very low. And so I was like on the floor crying and just thinking, I'm really tired of this reality. I don't want broken relationships. I don't know what to do about my money situation. And in that moment, I had this almost like epiphany where I thought, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to shift. And I realized that I was the common denominator in all these different scenarios, and I thought, okay, it's me that needs to change. And so I started avidly listening to podcasts because I was super busy. So, I love podcasts because you can learn on the go and you can kind of multitask, right? So when I was washing the dishes, I was listening to podcasts. And when I was riding my bike to school, listening to podcasts, and driving my kids around, listening to podcasts. And I just started listening to everything I could about relationship skills, personal power, and money. And it started to work, and I started to really change the way I was thinking about things. And as I started to kind of share what I was learning with people, I got the idea to become a coach. I was like, I love teaching. At the time, I was teaching at the University of Colorado in Boulder, and I had 2,500 students, and they loved the way I was teaching, and it was really a coaching style. And so I decided at the end of writing my dissertation, I'm going to take the leap and jump into business building. And it was scary. I had only a couple of months of living money saved up at the time, which obviously I didn't have big expenses, but I thought, I'm going to take the leap. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to start my own business and see what happens. And I ended up going 6 figures my first full-time year. So, I went from being on food stamps, really struggling, super victim-minded and very scared and in survival mode, to in that first year of business, I went out and I hustled. I love the name of your podcast. It was really that idea of like, build a business from nothing, doing all sweat equity. And that's really how I did it in the beginning.
Oh, wow. That's quite the story. So I'm curious where the doctor comes in. So I guess you have a doctorate. I'm curious what it's
Yeah.
in.
Sociology.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe you kind of use what you've learned with that, with your coaching as well. You're able to kind of implement.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was quite different than what I do now. And I do a lot of, I really now I'm a business consultant. So at first I thought I was going to do relationship coaching. And then I started to work with a lot of entrepreneurs. And then it's transitioned into a lot of teaching and training and workshops. And I do one-on-one coaching and consulting and all kinds of different things. But really, the way that my graduate degree helped was in odd ways that you wouldn't even think of, where it was like I got really good at curriculum development. So it's like when I create an online course, I can like create a curriculum really quickly. And sociology is thinking about macro systems. And then my background before that was in psychology. And then I also did a whole bunch of other research in behavioral sciences. So yes, in terms of thinking about human behavior and development, my degree gave me a lot of information. Yet, in the world of taking action, it's so different than academic learning. And so for me, that was another reason why I decided to take a leap from academia into entrepreneurship, is because I felt like I was going to be able to have a lot more flexibility and freedom to make a larger impact in my own way, instead of kind of being confined to the rules of academic culture.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious to learn more about the NFA moneymaker method, how you got that idea and what that entails.
Yeah, so it was fascinating to work with a whole bunch of different entrepreneurs and watch the patterns. One thing that grad school gave me, especially in sociology, is looking for patterns across organizations, across culture, society, people. So when I started working with a lot of different entrepreneurs, I started to notice a lot of patterns. And one of the patterns I noticed is that they struggled with their money blocks and what I call competing commitments. So I created this term called competing commitments, which is about when you're basically battling between your conscious and your unconscious. So 95% of us is run by our unconscious drivers, which is awesome because you don't have to learn how to drive every day again and brush your teeth and do just your autopilot habits. That's all stored in your subconscious. But when it's competing with what you consciously say you want, you have a problem where they battle against each other. So an example would be something like, I heard entrepreneurs a lot say, I'm really driven to build a business to 6 figures and I really want to start a business. I want it to be successful, but then they would procrastinate, hesitate, have lots of fear and doubt, imposter syndrome, be afraid, and not take action. And to me, I thought, like, what's going on here? Because if they're saying they want this and they're not doing it, what's the force behind that? And as I worked with a lot of different people, I realized like, oh, there's a lot of stuck places where people have fear and doubt and uncertainty and don't know what to do next. And how do I help people get aligned? So all of the methods that I use to help people make more money are about bringing conscious awareness to what's holding them back. And so one of my favorite quotes is Carl Jung, and he says, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And so I really noticed this in everyone I was working with. Like, why do they feel like they have an invisible force holding them back? And how do I help them get from where they say they want, from where they are to where they say they want to be as fast as possible? And really, it all starts with their belief system and what they unconsciously believe that got downloaded when they were little kids, and they are just running they're running unconscious stories and buying into them and then recreating it in their lives. And this shows up a lot in money, and so it's a really tangible way to see where people are stuck.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting. So how do you, I guess, figure out what is their block or their money block, their like where they're getting stuck? How do you determine that?
I have a money blocks profile. So often I have people go through the money blocks profile. The easiest way is money stories. So I have all the people I work with write a money story, and I ask them very specific questions about the way that their belief system was shaped. I think of it as your money OS, your money operating system. It's almost like a program. So when we're ages 0 to 7, we are told certain things, we watch certain things, we hear, we experience, we observe everything that's going on around us, and we don't have any discrimination filtration system. So that we don't go like, oh, when I'm 5, I don't go like, oh, I choose to believe this and not that. Or, we just watch everyone around us and we go like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to believe about money. So it helps people to start to uncover through writing a money story about their history and like, what did I believe when I was a kid growing up about money? And do I want to continue to buy into that belief? And how is it shaping my current reality and how money shows and how I interact relationally with money? So
Okay.
oh yeah, go for it.
Oh, no, I was just gonna ask, are there ever blocks or ways entrepreneurs get stuck that don't involve money, like other, I don't know, things that kind of hold them back?
Absolutely. In terms of competing commitments, it can show up in every area. You could have a competing commitment about your relationships, right? You could have competing commitments show up in your health status. You could have it show up in your spiritual, all areas. The reason I like to work on money blocks with entrepreneurs is because I always tell people your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. So if you don't like what you're getting on the outside, you got to start working on what's within. And money is a really clear representation of your outer world. So the ways that those money blocks show up for entrepreneurs is in fear of sales, fear, sabotage, working too hard, burning out, over delivering and undercharging. Like I just saw these patterns, and it's just such an easy way to help entrepreneurs really change their entire business model and way of being and doing business, because most entrepreneurs are pretty addicted to stress, and they work a lot, and they have a lot of many have a lot of inspiration to change the world and do amazing things, and then they get burnt out because they're not making the amount of money that they want to make. And so it's an easy place to start working with people, and in that we uncover so much more, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Like when you were mentioning about how an entrepreneur might have this goal of 6 figures or 7 figures or whatever, but then they procrastinate. I kind of feel like shiny object syndrome might fall into that. Like for me, I'm finally in the zone and where I need to be. But for over a decade, I tried this, that, and the other thing, a million different things. Um, and I feel like I was experiencing shiny object syndrome, which I think is common for entrepreneurs. And but now, even though I know where I need to be and what I need to do, so I don't have as much of that issue, but it's more like, so the other day I was thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm afraid of failure. I don't have a fear of failure. I think I'm afraid of success.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
absolutely. Yeah, it's a huge block for a lot of entrepreneurs. Yeah. And what I
Hmm.
relate that one to. So first I'll say shiny object syndrome. Absolutely. I think an issue with, today we have access to so much information that you can get distracted every second, really. And there's one person telling you to do this and another person telling you to do this and another person telling you this, and you just go like, like how do I decide which direction to go? So one of the things I really love to bring to people is like, let's find your zone of genius, and then decisions get really easy to make. And you always align with like, is this in my zone of genius? Yes or no. And if it is, move forward. If it's not, don't do it. And you get really fine-tuned and focused instead of shiny object syndrome, which scattered energy makes money a lot harder to make because you're sending out a very mixed message, and confused people don't buy. And when you're confused, you don't even know how to market what your solution is for people. And so I help people get really laser focused on what they enjoy doing the most so they can make money doing what they love and not have that shiny object syndrome all the time. So there's that piece. And then on the other end of what you were saying, a money block that I found 3 common money blocks. And one of them is money causes stress. And under the money causes stress, there's a fear of success. So there could be fear of failure, but there's also this fear of success because you go like, what if I'm so successful that it's too much responsibility? What if I'm so successful that I don't know how to handle it? What if I'm so successful that, all the what ifing that goes on with fears.
Mm. Okay, well that's helpful to know that that's like an actual thing, because I'm like,
Yeah.
am I just making this up in my head, or
Yeah. Yeah.
because I was wondering like, why am I procrastinating on these specific things I know I need to do, and da 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 da. I'm like, and then I was thinking, oh, it must be fear of failure. I'm like, you know what? I don't think that's it. I feel like I know that. I think the thing is, I know it's going to be successful, and that kind of scares me. But
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't know that
Well,
was a
and
thing.
that's such an interesting one, Sarah, because like in my mind, when we look at fear of success, we could go, okay, it's afraid of the responsibility, or it could be I'm afraid of outshining other people. So sometimes it's
Mhm.
like, what if I get so big that other people don't like me, which is a pretty core survival
Mm.
fear, right? Like if somehow people don't like me and I'm getting ostracized, and that's something that maybe happened to you when you're a child. Like I hear this all the time with people I work with. They go like, oh, I was bullied in school, or I was left out. And then they develop this fear of success. And the underlying part of that is they're like, what if I get left out and people don't like me because I'm so successful? And so it keeps them really
Mm.
stuck.
Mm.
So there's a lot of
Yeah,
different reasons that can happen, but it's a very common one.
uh, yeah, I think, I hadn't really thought about it until just now, but maybe it's more of, because I know as you get more successful, you have less time, and
Yeah.
maybe I'm already struggling with relationships, friendships, family, husband, whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe because I know the more successful you are, the more time that takes, and then if it's already kind of, that maybe
Yeah.
that's what it is. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love this because you're highlighting all, many things at once. So the 3 that I discovered are money is bad, money is scarce, and money causes stress. And under those, there's a whole bunch of different beliefs behind, or what I call money blocks behind those bigger paradigm beliefs. And so in money is scarce, you would have the belief that I have to choose between success in my business and friends. And there's never enough time. And oh no, if money causes stress would be this belief like, well, crap, if I want to 10x my business, what if I have to 10x the amount of work I do? Like, I don't want to do that. No one wants to do that, right? So then it causes you to fear the success because you have the underlying belief that you have to work really hard to make your money.
Mm, okay, that makes sense.
Does that
That
make
maybe
sense?
that
Yeah.
that might be. And then the other ones you mentioned are okay, so
Yep. So money is bad.
scarcity.
Yeah, money
Oh.
is bad. So
Mhm.
money is bad has to do with that belief system. Like it's not spiritual to make money. It could be
Mhm.
like I had a really religious upbringing, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs that struggle with this. Like money somehow is bad because because money is the root of all evil. Or if I become too rich, I might be a greedy jerk, or people might see me as being greedy. Or what if my identity really changes and I don't like myself anymore? Or what if I lose my identity? Those kind of things. And that happens a lot. And you can really notice that in yourself a lot of people will say to me, oh, I think money's great. I want all the money in the world. And then you'll say like, well, what do you think about wealthy people? Like if you just write wealthy people are, and usually they'll say good, often if they think they don't have, they'll say good, but then you'll be like, I've had this where I'm hanging out with people and then they'll like see a really fancy car drive by and they'll be like, that jerk in that, Mercedes or whatever. And you're like, that's a money is bad money block, right? Like,
Mm,
because you just have that preconceived notion that if you flash your wealth, you're a bad person somehow. And we can see this trope in
mm,
movies all the time, right? Like wealthy,
mm,
it like corruption and wealth, right? Then
mhm,
money is scarce is that idea that I can't have both or that there's never
mm,
enough. And I see this with people often entrepreneurs who make a ton of money and then but maybe they worked really hard to get there, they make a ton of money, and then they're always scared, like what if it doesn't keep going, what if it goes
mhm,
away, like, and so there's this tightness and fear around losing it all the time no matter what amount they make. And then often they also think like what the either or instead of both, and like I either can have a successful business or a good relationship but not both, or I can have a successful business or great friends, but not both. And so that's a scarcity mentality around money. And then the money causes stress is usually shows up as avoidance. Like you avoid looking at your money. You really like don't want to do bookkeeping and you kind of don't know your ROI. You don't know which things you're doing in your business to bring you the most ROI. So you end up working too hard, or you just like, you want to run away from it in some way because it causes you stress. And then you end up working a lot because you avoid even looking at your numbers.
mhm. Yeah, the money is bad one. Yeah, a lot of people use the whole money is the root of all evil, but I think the quote or verse or whatever actually says the love of money is the root of
Yeah.
all evil, which is
Yeah.
a totally different thing than and then when you were talking about the car thing, it reminded me of, I don't know if you've ever read this book by T. Harv Eker
Yeah.
called Millionaire Mindset, I think. Something
Yes.
something like that.
Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Yeah.
Yes, that's it. He gives an example in there that it reminded me of like
Oh, yeah.
where he drove like a regular car in some neighborhood and no big deal, but then he drove in that same neighborhood a Lamborghini or something. I don't, or Jaguar, I don't remember what it was. And people were like throwing stuff at him
Yeah.
and all that
Exactly.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Uh, let's see. So, what are the 3 easy steps to manifest more money in your business?
Yeah, there's a lot of amazing ways to manifest money in your business. And this one is this is really manifestation principles in general. And so this would be money in your business. This would be anything that you want. It's 3 easy steps. And when I say easy, the path is easy. The hard part is all of the stuckness that happens in your head from preventing you from doing this. And first, I also want to break down manifestation because people have a lot of beliefs around the word manifestation, and I always tell people like, no matter what, you are manifesting every day. So like even when you get up in the morning and you decide I want a cup of coffee and you go make it happen, you manifested your coffee, right? So it's like
Mhm.
people have this funny belief about it where like manifestation isn't a thing, that's just some woo-woo thing. And it's like, no, you're creating your reality every single day at every single moment. So let's be conscious about it and get what you want and use the principles of the universe instead of working against them and continuing to have to learn hard lessons so that you can then refine to have an easier life. So I like to say that first. 3 easy steps. So number 1, you want to be very, very clear about what you want. And that means most people make decisions from a place of scarcity or what they've been able to create in the past. And so they limit their imagination of the possibility of what they can have. And so that clarity of what they want, often people don't even ask for what they want. They don't know what they want, or they're afraid to ask for it. And so you want to get clear about what you want. Be okay with what you want. And if you're someone who's had some scarcity around it, take small steps. Like at first, just start with like something small, and something that is very believable to your mind. Just go like, oh, I want to create this next. Like I want my first client, or I want to sell my first program, or whatever, whatever your business model is. And then, so get clear about what you want. Number 2, you want to take action in the direction of what you say you want, right? So you have to do the action part. So when you're, it's like manifestation isn't this idea of like sitting on the couch and thinking thoughts and that magical things happen. when you're really good at manifesting, yes, that can happen. You can have a thought, align with it, and have opportunities come your way, yet you're still taking action to seek the opportunities, right? So the action part is your bargain with the universe, where you're like, this is a win-win situation, and I'm signaling that I'm serious and committed, and I'm moving in the direction of what I say I want. Number three is surrendering to the universe, the hows. You don't need to know all the details. You don't need to know every step of the way. The path will appear as you take steps. And so, and in greater ways than you could ever imagine. So usually where people get stuck is, one, in the first one, they don't know clearly what they want, or they're not willing to allow themselves to ask for what they want. And then two, they procrastinate, don't take action. And then three, when they do, they get into this hyper control of like every detail needs to be written down and figured out. And if it's not that way, they feel out of control, but then they're frustrated that things aren't happening as fast as they want, but it's because they've already created all these confinements around it. And so they're making the process a lot harder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting because, I was one of those people who would hear the word manifestation and just immediately think woo woo, or I didn't even know what it meant really. I just thought it was,
Yeah.
But it was literally like this week or maybe last week that I realized, you know what? I think I'm manifesting stuff because like because like stuff is happening but I'm like you said, taking the steps to make it happen. You like, if there's certain people you want on your podcast that seem like there's no way that that you would get them. Well, first you have to ask. That's the
Yes.
first step.
Yes.
And, or like, okay, this is kind of a really silly example, but like a few years ago, see, my husband and I were big Lady Gaga fans.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, "Oh, we're never gonna meet her." And I'm like, "Yeah, we will. I know we will. Someday we will." And he's like, "You can't know that." I'm like, "Yeah, I can." Lo and behold, we did. We ran into her at her dad's restaurant in New York City.
That's
And
awesome.
and then I'm like, and I never thought of it as that back then, but now I'm kind of like looking back on it like,
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm going to be a millionaire someday by whatever age. I used to say 40. I'm 38 now. I used to say 40. Now I'm kind of thinking 50, but somewhere between 40 and 50. I'm going to be a millionaire. And people are like, well, you can't really control that. How can you know that? I'm like, yeah, actually, I can control. If I sit on the couch and just watch TV, that's not going to happen. But if I'm taking proactive steps, it's going to happen. And so anyway, so it was just kind of this week or last week that I came to that realization that I'm like,
Yeah, it's
I'm
happening.
making things happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, people don't realize how powerful they are. And most people spend a lot of their time in the way of negative creation. And when I say negative creation, I mean, it's always great because you're going to grow. And I think we're here to learn. So it's like, we're learning, we're growing. And no matter what it is you're creating, you're going to have opportunities to learn. I like to think of it as like, let's consciously create what I want, because you said something earlier about like the inner voice or the inner critic or something like that. Maybe it was someone else. I've talked to so many people today, but it's like this inner critic voice is creating a reality that you don't necessarily want. And your innermost dominant thoughts always create your reality. And it doesn't matter if they're conscious or unconscious, right? So the hard part is that most people have 95% of them unconsciously beating them up, filled with self-doubt, telling them they can't have what they want, telling them that like, oh, focus on 50 things so that you can never have too much success, like sabotage safety and comfort zone, right? So if you're trained in that way, you've actually got to you've got to put in the effort to retrain your brain in a direction for your own success, where you're actually asking for what you want, taking action, and believing it's possible. And it's a training piece. Most people are not born that way. We're born by a negativity bias, right? We remember negative things 8 times more easily than positive things because it keeps us safe, right? Like, you touch the hot stove once, you never have to remember that again. It just keeps you from touching the hot stove ever again. So that's the hard part about it, is that we go, oh, I've got to choose and decide and be committed to becoming a master of my inner thoughts, because my thoughts create my reality.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's just so interesting to go from thinking that's a bunch of crap basically to
Yeah,
seeing it actually play out in, yeah, my own
yeah,
life or career and, yeah, being
that's
like, "Oh,
very cool.
I guess it's a le
Keep it up.
I guess it's a legit thing."
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
So, okay, so we talked about the competing commitments and, um, the 3 steps to manifesting more money in your business. Um, and then as far as determining which of the money blocks, I guess that the money blocks profile, that kinda helps people determine that. I mean,
Definitely. Yeah. Yep. And here's the thing that people will notice when they take that. So they just go to moneyblocksprofile.com and it gives them a profile in 2 minutes or less. And it's very specific questions that are so clearly marked in one direction or the other. The thing is, you will probably look at your life history and have an experience with most of them. Some
mm,
people, I'd say the money is bad ones, some people really don't have, but then when you dig in, you see that they have it. But you will have one predominant one operating at any given time. And you never eliminate them completely because at every new level of yourself, you're going to run into a new layer of money blocks, right? And it'll be in the same 3 categories. One of those will be operating, but the thing that's cool when you learn this work is that you start to move through the process more quickly, right? So you go, oh, I noticed this money block's coming up. What am I going to do to shift it in a different direction? And work with getting conscious about it. And then know that the next round of your evolutionary quantum leap to the next layer of yourself, you're going to run into another one. And things that will happen, like let's say you break through to a new level in your business, you might have a new money block. Let's say you get married, maybe you'll have a new money block. Let's say you have kids, maybe a new money block, right? And so they don't ever go away. And so I like to tell people this is a lifelong journey and a practice. Learning tools to deal with it along the way is what gives you the easiest path and the fastest way to create a path of least resistance to making the most money possible, whatever the amount that is to you.
mhm. Yeah, and then, another thing you talk about is how your money mindset is the foundation of all your business success and, how money blocks limit your profitability. Can you kinda go into that and, explain how that is?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always tell people you're your greatest cheerleader or your biggest limiting factor, right? So either you are cheering yourself on, training yourself for success, creating energy, mindset, and habits that align with money making, or you're doing the opposite and you're holding yourself back. And you might vacillate between the two, right? Like sometimes you might be, oh, my mindset's aligned, and sometimes you might not be. You will always know if you're aligned for easier money making if you feel good in what you're doing, right? Because when you look at energy, if you look at quantum physics and manifestation, it has to do with energetic frequencies. So when you're in a state of joy and fun and flow in your zone of genius, you have the greatest ability to be profitable and the highest profitability because you're focused. You're not going to procrastinate because you love what you're doing. You're going to attract people your way because you have magnetic energy that you're putting out into the universe. And then things flow really easily. So the greatest opportunity for you to have the highest profitability is when you are aligned, and it starts with your thoughts and your beliefs. And you'll know you're out of alignment if you don't feel good, right? So if you have a lot of stress and you feel really overwhelmed and you're constantly feeling doubt and fear and uncertainty and too much and it all, then oh, somewhere in my belief system I'm misaligned. And you want to start looking within at what those beliefs might be.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I feel like I've learned a lot. Oh, well, stuff I didn't know, but then also stuff that kind of affirms things I've been just thinking about the last week or 2. So,
Yeah.
yeah, this is all I appreciate your time today, and yeah, moneyblocksprofile.com is that quiz, and
Yep.
then your main website is nfamoney.com. I'll also have show notes with links to all of this at
Perfect.
thesarahstjohn.com/Amanda. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we end?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I like to tell people I have all kinds of different resources that are available for any business owner. I work a lot with coaches and online entrepreneurs, and I help them align their energy, their mindset, and their habits to make more money in their business. And I have tons of cool free stuff. I have a YouTube channel and a weekly podcast. And I just created a private Facebook group called the NFA Moneymaker Lab. So in that, they get a free mini course when they join, and it's called 30 Money Making Secrets. So all kinds of cool stuff, all designed to help you do exactly what we've talked about this whole show, which is like go, oh, what are my unconscious beliefs that are holding me back from having a successful business?
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take the quiz and join that. Well, I'm not like a big Facebook group person, but that sounds interesting.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
but I am a big podcast listener, so I'm definitely gonna check that out.
Cool. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's called Max Potential Money.
Okay. Yeah, I was just
Yep.
gonna ask. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
You are so welcome. Thanks for having me, Sarah.